Okay, so now we're going to talk about dispatch groups. So basically what a dispatch group is that there are times when you will be making multiple API calls from different multiple API calls. So basically maybe you will be making a call to out there to the internet to retrieve an image over here from one location. Then you have a different URL from a different location. Then you have a different URL from a different location. And then on top of that, maybe you might have some information, right? So all in one point, all in one area, when you make these calls, sometimes the responses are going to come back at different times, right? A dispatch group will give you the ability to wait for all of them to come in and then use all that information at one time. Okay. So I'm going to give an example. So here's a great example. This app right here, I'm going to make a call to the internet to get pictures and information of 3 different boxers, right? And the information will come back at different times. Of course, I think I'm going to make a stub to basically, enforce that, right? So basically, this one's going to come back first. This one's going to come back second. This one's going to come back third. But I'm going to show them loading at one time. I'm going to take all the information and load it one time. So this is the view controller, right? And that's for this image view. This one is for this image view. And the bottom one's for the third image view. And of course, labels 1, 2, and 3 as well. I have a data model that is called Fighter, and this has a name and an image. So what I'm doing is I am making an API call in my view controller to the URL, and the URL is going to return the image. Then the image downloads and I create the image on our side. But again, all this takes varied amounts of time. So we need to wait for everything to process, and then we do it all at one point. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now that we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to get started. So let's see. So right here, we already have this. And I left this here. Dispatch group equals dispatch. Okay. Now on here is where we're gonna do everything. Okay. And so I've already discussed we've already discussed GCD. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create a dispatch queue where all of our downloading is going to run. Dispatch queue dot global, right, dot quality of service queue, quality of service dot user interactive dot async, right? That's what we want. Okay, and so now we need to go ahead and do everything that's going to get us an image. So the first image here is going to be, what we want to do is we want to produce an image here, and images all 3 here. The first image is going to be of Errol Spence because I'm a boxing fan. Errol Spence. The second one is going to be of Frank Martin. The third one's going to be of Xander Zayas, and it's going to have their name in there. Okay. And we're going to use these variables that have broad scope in order to display everything. I'm gonna say one more thing too is in general, in a work environment, I would not do the view controller like this. I wouldn't code it like this. I would usually have a view model. I would never have a global variables in here or large scope variables in my view controller. And I would have a lot less implementation in my view controller. But I'm doing this for the sake of illustration so that you can understand how dispatch groups work. Okay. So I'm going to have a lot of implementation in the view controller, but it's not how you do in the real world. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to say guard. Let's, what I want to do is get a URL object, right? Oh, Jesus Christ, stop. String, right? And right here, I'm going to go over here and I want this. This is a link to an arrow spins picture that is online somewhere, right? Okay, I'm gonna say let data equal. And I'm doing this the lazy way again. I'm not, equal data. No, not date, data, right? Contents of URL, right? Then we're gonna let image. Yes, because I'm using a guard statement to get all this, to unwrap everything. And I have gone over this in previous tutorials, so else. And I'm going to say fatal error. Again, I would probably have a return and some type of, or maybe throws some type of custom error, but this is for illustration purposes. And I'm going to say could not get an image. Could not get image. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to say self because I'm inside of a closure. Self arrow. And by the way, I would usually probably make this weak self here in the async, right? But I'm not worrying about that right now. Fighter name arrow spins, arrow spins, arrow. I'm gonna say arrow the truth spins, right? Arrow the truth spins, and image is image, right? And look, I'm also going to say print, okay, done, okay. This is done, and this should say self dot arrow dot name. Because I want to print the name, right? And yeah. So we have this and interpolate. I'm getting a warning, so it wants me to say describing, right? So now no warning. Okay. Now what I need to do is kind of go and do the same thing again 2 more times, right? V, V, right? And this should not be arrow, this should be Frank, right? Because I want that to be something for Frank. And then the third one should be Xander, right? Right? Xander, and this should be Xander, and this should be Xander. I hope you understand. So basically, I'm going to use this Xander, this fighter object, Xander, to basically use it to display in my in the group dispatch. Now, when I do this, of course, let me see something. What is going on with this? This should not be here. And this should not say, this should say fighter name, Harold the True Spence, right? Fighter name, Frank Martin. Right, I'm setting the value for the custom object, which is fighter. Okay, and this custom object should be Xander Zayas. Okay. Now, when I do this, I want you guys to see something. When I press this button, it's not going to populate these images yet. But what it is going to do is I should get some information on when it's done downloading and creating the images in each case. So let's go here, replace. So they're all kind of close, right? But you notice they're not in order. And this one right here, Frank Martin, for some reason, is not it's not pulling anything. Let me just see something with Xander's eyes. Right, so give me a second. Okay, now let's see this. This right here, Frank Martin, seems to be nil. And I wonder why. Why is Frank Martin nil? I can tell you why. Because these other requests for Xander Zayas and for Errol Spence, they went out and they came back immediately, right? But this one took a little longer. So by the time this fires off, it's nil. It hasn't even gotten here to show this yet. So this object, this has not even been created because the image, all this has not finished. And this fired off before this is finished. That's why this is nil. But, and that's one of the things that a dispatch queue solves. You can wait for everything to get here, and then it starts populating and using the information. So let's go ahead and do this dispatch group. And I'm gonna show you how this works. So we already create our dispatch group object up here, right? Then I want you to come here to the beginning of this, right? And we're gonna say dispatch group, dispatch group dot enter, right? We're gonna get all this stuff done within this queue, not outside of it. Within the queue, then we're gonna say dispatch group dot leave. Now, I made this mistake of trying to do this outside, and it was not working. Excuse me. This leaving has to take place immediately within the queue that you're having the task done, not outside of it. And of course, because it's inside of a closure, I have to use a self keyword, right? So that I can access the class properties, which dispatch group is one of. By the way, in case you didn't know, which you probably do, but I'm going to say it anyway, class property is a property inside that belongs to this class. So some stuff that's up here. All these are class properties. Okay, so you want to access it instead of a property and a function, you say self. If you need to access it from within a closure, okay, which we are. Our dispatch group.global.quality of service user interactive. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do this again, right? Outside, we're going to say dispatch group.enter, right? And then within dispatch group.leave, okay? Again, I'm going to do this again, okay? Of course, self, okay? Gonna come again. Dispatch group.enter. Dispatch group, not a capital D, small d. Dispatch group.enter. Okay. Dispatch group.leave. Okay. Again, self dot. Okay. So now we have this. All this is done. Okay. So now, but this will fire off when this is done, right? Again, this will, I'm pretty sure this will always, for the Frank Martin, this will always remain nil when this fires off. However, what we need to do is wait until everything is done and then we get the information. Okay. So now in this same block, right? We're going to say dispatch group dot notify. Okay. And we want the output to be on the main queue, because if we don't, we will get an error because we're updating the UI. Okay. So this is on the main queue, and we'll say self dot image view one dot image equals self dot arrow dot image. Okay. And I'm going to copy this. See, oh, sorry. V, right? And this should be image 2. Okay, image 3. And we want, for the next one, we want this to be Frank, right? And this one, we want this to be Xander, right? And then what we need to do is we need to say label, right? Self dot label one dot text equals self dot arrow dot name. Okay, let's go ahead, copy and paste this a couple times, right? V, right? This should be label 2. Okay, label 3. Give me a second. Okay, so now, of course, we want this to be Frank, right? Why is this? And we want this to be Xander, right? Oh, Jesus, stop. Okay. Now that we have that, so we have all of this going on. And let's see. Go ahead and rebuild. right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fetch the image, and this image view as well as the label should be set. And of course, I have made a few mistakes somewhere. So let's see. The first one is correct. The second one should be Frank Martin, right? So let's see the image, and this is still nil, right? So let's see, Frank. Okay, so one thing that I've done wrong was see how I have the same URL over and over again, right? That's a bad thing, right? Because I should only have it once. So let's go back here. This is the Frank Martin. C V. Okay. And then we'll go back here again to right here. Stop. Handoff could not be completed. Okay, whatever. I don't even understand what that even means. Let's see. All right, and right here, this should not be. This should be Xander Zayas. Okay, so now let's do this. Again, I fetch. Okay, so again, there is an error. Hold on. Okay, so what I did was I made another mistake, right? So I went and I fixed this. That's correct, right? Actually, it's not correct, right? Because that's actually Luis Ortiz and Charles Martin Jr. I am a little bit of a stickler for Frank Martin Boxer. Right. Images. Stop. So this is Boxer Frank Martin. We'll do this right here. And copy copy image address. There we go. All right. So now we've got this right here. And I want this to be here. Okay. That, and then another thing I made a mistake is accessing the wrong one, right? This should not be Xander, this should be Frank, right? And then another thing I did was, let me do this real quick, right here, right, real quick. Get rid of this. So now all of these kind of actually, I'm going to put a little bit of time so that this dispatch group can get the information that I want, right? So a little 3 seconds between this and the calls. Once all the information is there, then this fires off. But actually, I shouldn't even have to do that. So let's see. Nothing moves till it's notified. Okay. So now I do this. Yeah, there we go. So you notice Errol Spence comes back, Frank Martins comes last, and Xander Zayas comes second. But in the order in which we did it, Xander Zayas is last and Frank Martin is second, because this does this based on, it doesn't matter the order in which it's called. Dispatch group, the notify method of the dispatch group only runs this once everything is returned. Once all of these calls have been made. And then it uses the information. Or then it accesses what properties have been set, but only after all the calls have been made. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so that's how dispatch groups work. I have a fully functioning project for you to download. So if you need to, you can take it apart, play with it so that you can understand it. Yeah, on to the next.